Welcome back to the Daily Mastermind. George Wright III here with your daily dose of inspiration, motivation, and education. Have you ever noticed how much more difficult it is to push yourself when you don't have accountability in your life? When you don't have a partner, you don't have a coach, a mentor, a trainer, individuals like that. It's just so much more difficult. It literally takes sheer willpower, which if you haven't developed the discipline in your life makes it very, very difficult. So we're going to talk about that today. I'll tell you, I was noticing that, very, very grateful for my discipline this morning when I got up at 5 a.m. because I was not feeling it. And there really wasn't any accountability to anyone. I could have slept in and I didn't. So got to give myself props there. All right, so let's get started with the Daily Mastermind quote of the day. It's from Einstein, and Einstein said, "A person who never made a mistake never tried anything." A person who never made a mistake never tried anything. I'll tell you what, I definitely feel like I've had some great response from individuals just recently on these 8 steps that we're talking about to, create and change your life. But I want to remind you of something. The reason we're doing these is because I wanted to align some different areas of my life in a more synergetic way. My mindset, I always look and plan my mindset, my body, my health, my relationships, business, everything from the mastermind, the mentoring, the academies, my marketing, consulting, as well as clients, partners, and businesses I have. And so I personally have always gone back to these particular steps to make sure that I'm filling in the holes, filling in the gaps. And so, I've had a few people tell me that the topics may be redundant for them or topics that they've heard a lot in a lot of different places in their life. But the thing that I have responded with great reception on the other hand, on the other side, by the way, is that they may sound redundant, but many of you still haven't implemented these steps. Many of you have areas of your life that have big gaping holes because of the lack of discipline or vision or clarity that we're talking about. So what you have to understand is that repetition is the key to mastery. And that's why fundamentals are so important. You don't go into professional NBA players and say, man, why do you bother shooting free throws? Let practice. Like, why do you practice layups? Well, it's because you're not going to master it unless you master the fundamentals. The fundamentals are key. And I'm telling you, 95% of people out there do not do all of these steps. They do the steps that are the easiest, the simplest, or the most redundant for them. And so you got to repeat these steps, repeat these processes, repeat these principles until you master them. And here's the secret. It's going to take you your whole life. It's going to take you your whole life. So going back to the topics and going back to, a different perspective or lens you may have in your life right now, circumstances are different. And creating accountability, it does sound pretty simple, although most people avoid the topic altogether. Nobody really likes accountability. And it's because we look at it as, someone looking over our shoulder. We look at accountability as something that's like a pressure for us. And that's the wrong perspective. You have to look at accountability. I look at it personally with a dual purpose. Of course, I look at it from an aspect of discipline, but I look at it as a way to grow, as a requirement, a key, a necessary step for growth. So I always look at things, especially when I go back, because I forget, just like most of us. When you go back, there's got to be specific intent with why you do things. What's in it for you? What's it going to do for you in your life? It's not just a cool word, right? It's a required step in success. Accountability is not just for people that don't have discipline. Accountability is not just for individuals that need someone looking over their shoulder. Even the highest elite leaders and thought leaders and experts and successful people need accountability. Trust me. I know 7, 8, 9-figure earners that require, need, and desire accountability. So let's talk about some areas of accountability for a minute. Number 1, there's a reason that it's prosperity pillar number 2 that says, I take personal responsibility. Because to be accountable, you have to take extreme ownership. You have to take extreme ownership. And I'd ask you this. I want you to think about this for a minute. Are you personally responsible for every area of your life? Are you taking ownership of the results in your life? Or do you find that sometimes you blame other people, other things, other circumstances that are outside your control, that really have no, you didn't cause? But are you taking responsibility anyway? Because if you want to create your life, you can't defer that responsibility. And taking responsibility is a key part of accountability. When you desire accountability, you're taking responsibility. The second thing is, are you keeping a scorecard? I mean, I know that all this crap recently, and it's becoming more and more prevalent. Keeping score is not the key. No, I'm telling you right now, keeping score is the key. Keeping score is the only way you're going to grow, because what you measure, you focus on, and what you focus on grows, period. If you're not keeping a scorecard, if you're not looking at the scoreboard, then you're just drifting through life. You're just drifting through life. And you have to ask yourself the question, are you avoiding the truth? Are you avoiding the truth in the fact that you're not creating results? You're not doing the daily rituals you should. You're not growing. You're not getting the results that you want and desire. You're not getting closer to your goal. How do you know how close you're getting to your goal? See, if you're one of those individuals that are like, goals are just either accomplished or not, hit or miss, win or lose, wins or losses. That's not going to help you in life to know whether you had a win or a loss. W's and L's do not help you. Progress helps you. Step by step helps you. Specific steps help you. Growth helps you, because then you get the wins, you get the losses, and you move on. So keeping a scorecard is super, super important. And I don't know if that's, Brendan Burchard has you rate different areas of your life, or whether you have a checklist for your daily rituals, or whether you have KPIs in your business. Those are key performance indicators, the most important ones. But the only thing else I would say about this is make sure you're measuring the right thing. And there are different times you need to measure different things. For example, when you're trying to create momentum, I always measure activity. I measure the number of calls you make, the number of dials you do, the number of people you contact, the number of presentations you make, the number of activities you do, because activity, motion creates emotion, creates energy, creates results. But once you start to hit, and once you have a little momentum, you've got to track productivity, not activity. Productivity is results. It's getting accomplished the key things, the key performance indicators you want to get accomplished, not just activity, because activity can help you create momentum, but it doesn't always create results automatically. And so make sure you're measuring the right things, and we could talk about that on another episode. The third thing besides responsibility and a scorecard is, I believe you got to have structure for accountability. I think those of us that think that we're going to willpower our way into accountability are fooling ourselves. The key is to have structure, because structure requires discipline, right? Structure requires accountability. When you're accountable to someone else, now it might be a direct accountability. It might be a partner, a mentor, a trainer, a coworker, or it might be indirect. It might be processes you put in place. There's some great ideas that companies have implemented with mobile apps where there's streaks. Like if you've ever been in a meditation app, it'll do streaks. You've been 3 days in a row, 4 days in a row, 5 days in a row. Congratulations. And that positive affirmation comes from having accountability partners. You get a little bit of that encouragement as well as the accountability. Do you have somebody that you're accountable to in your life? Do you have a way to structure your accountability? Do you have people? Do you have a process? Do you have a routine that holds you accountable? I would argue that you need to find one. And if you're not where you want to be in life, and ironically, 99.9% of us aren't, because even if you're crushing it, you have more goals. And even if you're not, you need to move faster. But if you're not where you are in your life, I would argue you need a greater sense, a greater source, and a greater structure for accountability. Accountability will be the thing that helps you to overcome your mood, your circumstances, and everything else. Accountability is a huge key, a huge key. Take my word for that one. I've needed accountability through my whole life and still do to this day. The last thing I want to mention to you is adjustments and course corrections. Accountability gives you the feedback, the encouragement, the knowledge, and the information to make course adjustments, to pivot when things don't work out right, or when you fail, or when things are not going the right direction. You don't want to get too far down the road without making a course correction, because course corrections, when you're really off path, are a lot harder to do. They're a lot harder to do. You want to make those little minor adjustments, those little minor course corrections. And that only comes with accountability. And that's what accountability will do for you in your life. So let's do a quick review of this, because here's the thing. We're talking about the 8 steps to create massive change and momentum and results in your life and business. We've talked about vision, having a clear vision. We've talked about clarity in your life and the way you're going to accomplish your vision. We've talked about making decisions and commitments and following through, resolve your decisions. We've talked about just overloading yourself with certainty around your decisions so that your faith and confidence go up. Then we've talked about all-out massive action and what are some of the factors you need to do with that. And then discipline. Discipline comes in and it comes hand in hand with what we talked about today, which is accountability. Accountability will help lock in that discipline. Now, tomorrow, I want to talk to you about persistence. It's what Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich says is the gateway, the key to success is persistence. And I believe persistence, consistency, and your ability to have resolve that you will not quit. As Les Brown says, it's not over until you win. That's persistence. And we're going to talk about that tomorrow, and then I'll send you off into the weekend. I hope you have an amazing week. If not, remember, it's never too late to start living the life that you were meant to live. It's never too late. You have a new day, a fresh start. You can begin today and let the past be the past and start with these 8 steps and start to get clarity in your life. I hope those are some thoughts for you that will inspire and motivate you. I also would encourage you, I'd ask that you share this podcast. Help us share the messages that we're talking about here. Teaching, sharing, that's the goal of this podcast. We're here for you. If you're listening, it's providing value. Provide this value for other people. Share it. Put it in your stories. Tag me in your stories when you share this podcast. I look forward to hearing more feedback from you, and I will talk with you more tomorrow. This is George Wright III, and this has been the Daily Mastermind. Have a great day.